What's up, Louie?
Nothing much. Just
Can you hear me okay? Testing. Oh, wait. I know what to do. Hold on. Sorry, Louie. I got the wrong... Got to change connections here. Bam, Louie. Can you hear me?
yeah.
Yes. You got for me? So let's jump into it. What are you thinking for today?
Oh, okay. So I wrote down a couple of ideas out of the one of my favorite things I've been doing, and I've been using this book recently. Obviously, Stick Control.
What's that book? I don't know. Never heard of that. Is that a good book?
Yeah, you've never heard of it. My goodness. I mean, Stick Control is just. I mean, I heard it growing up, and I mean, I remember when I first looked at the first page, and was like, hey, you know, this kind of doesn't look like it's for me. It's
Sure.
you know, I'm in my undergrad, and I'm like some hotshot big band drummer, and I'm like, why do I need to go at one? Right. Over and over again. So I kind of blew it off, and then this last year, I had a professor here at USC. Besides Peter, used this, but Will Kennedy, the pop department, brought this back in, and then so did Aron Servati, and he started showing me different ways to utilize this, and I just was like, oh my gosh, I missed out on this wonderful book. This is such an amazing book, and like I've been like kind of dedicated to it.
Nice.
These past, especially now that I just graduated, now I can have some time to like literally practice what I want to practice. So this is a book I've been spending about 2 months just kind of exploring different options. So I've been messing with the Stick Control book, and I've got some variations. What I've been using it for, I mean, not only it's a purpose for just like playing on one surface and with a med and all that goodness, but also applying different ostinatos with our other two limbs.
Okay.
Not just like setting up a metronome and like, am I playing with the metronome, but I'm also externalizing the metronome, the beat, myself with my feet.
Okay.
So I drafted this paper here that it's going to include. It's called Stick Control with Foot Ostinatos, and it's just going to work very simply. One ostinato with all, you can go through as many variations as you like, and I included the first 4, and you'll see I've got just bass drum, just hi-hat. Number 3 is going to be alternating feet. 3B is going to be alternating feet starting the other way.
Oh, dear God. Okay.
Then 4A and 4B are alternating 8th note feet, matching, and then doing it one way.
Oh, God.
Then number 5 is the one I've been using the most.
The samba.
The samba. This I think is like and that's I mean, Professor Servati, that's like his, I mean, Brazilian grooves. I mean, I used to be like, oh, this is a Latin bass drum. He's like, don't ever say Latin. Be specific.
Oh.
And so he's sort of really like honed me in on like the Brazilian rhythms. And this is the best, for me, one of my favorite ostinatos to just challenge myself with. And then the last one is this insane one that I got from Will Kennedy, also here at USC Pop Drums, but he's also the drummer for the Yellow Jackets, which is a 3-note variation where you have one foot, one hi-hat
I see
foot,
it.
followed by 2 bass drum,
Oh,
all in
you
the same
maniac.
speed. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so you create this like hemiola over 3 bars. And for now, I only wrote out Stick Control number 1 because that is already a tough. That's just that ostinato alone is tough. I didn't want to include all the other ones. Have like the first 4, which just repeats around them all. So you could just, of course, in Stick Control, it's just like do it like 20 times, or really, it's just like do it as many times till you're comfortable. So
now I want to just take a quick step back here. You used a term that I'm not familiar with, hemiola.
Oh, hemiola. Okay, so I may have used the incorrect word. I meant to say no. Hemiola and polyrhythm sometimes are kind of like interchangeable. It's kind of like a square is a rectangle, but a rectangle isn't a square.
Yeah, it would be a polymeter. So the hat bass is a 3 grouping. So you can think about that as like, well, in that case, I think it was like 3/8 or whatever. Yeah. But because it doesn't match the bar line, it's a polymeter, and so they overlap.
Yeah.
So the term hemiola is kind of synonymous with that concept, like crossing the bar line, which is essentially a polymeter.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think when I first learned those words, I had learned it on my own, and so it's been kind of a. I automatically just like, oh, it's a hemiola, but it's like, no, it's polyrhythmic. It's not necessarily a hemio. So.
And I would argue, not to derail us before we've even started, but that I would argue that that's polymetric more than polyrhythmic. Which maybe also, I would love it if there's like some other like high-end drummers listening or watching this later on down the road that can come in and really put the nail on the head with it. But when I think of polyrhythms, I think of the different rhythms, quarters, eighths, eighth notes, triplets, 16th notes, right? Like, so a polyrhythm would be 5 and 2, quintuplets and eighth notes simultaneously.
Yeah.
That is irrelevant when you're talking about measures, because polymeasures or polymeters is the guitar player's playing a 6 groove. I'm talking about Led Zeppelin, obviously.
Yeah.
Guitar player's playing a 6 groove and the drummer's holding down 4/4. There are no rhythmic oddities there. It's just that the measures do like Lego over each other. Right? I've never thought about it that way. They look like Legos, like overlapping.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Anytime I can learn any new terms or anything like that, I love it. So this is what we're up to, right? The foot ostinatos and stick control, page 1.
Yeah, and again, I have the first 4 written out. Just number 1 is just keeping that bass drum steady.
Okay, so quarter notes on the bass. So this looks a lot like Ted Reed's syncopation, page 1.
Yeah.
Or sorry, it would be page 10 actually. But okay, so.
Yeah, exactly, just like that. And of course, I just have the first 4 written down.
Yeah.
I mean, you could take a look at that whole page and just, copy and paste and just start to, go through that.
So number 2.
But
so same thing again with the other foot.
Yeah, same thing, other foot.
All right, I'm going to do this again a little bit faster since I know this is not the hard part. The hard part is coming up. So I'll have some fun here.
Yeah. The next one will be alternating feet, just quarter note feet. Start with the bass drum.
At this point, because I'm a lefty, at this point I'm going to take over leading with the hand. So wherever it says right, I'm going to do a left, and vice versa. But that's only because that's kind of how my brain works. So. Okay. Getting nervous here.
3B is then same concept, starting the other way, starting with the hi-hat foot.
Right. Perfect. So reversing the entire thing.
Yeah.
Oh wait, starting with the hi-hat foot?
Yeah.
But it still says bass.
Oh, dang it. Yeah, I see that. Oh, my bad.
I can still do it though. So the hands are doing the same thing, but the feet are reversed.
Correct.
Okay.
Nice. All right, now we're on page 2.
I see it. Okay.
And then now we start to pick up in intensity here. Now we're going to take the same concept with 3 alternating feet, but now it's eighth note bass. Now your hands and your feet will match rhythmically.
Yep.
Eighth note, eighth note, eighth note, but your hands will start to change their groupings or placements. Yeah. Very nice.
I want to do that one again. I want to.
Sure.
Because that one's fun.
Yeah.
Make a mistake too.
Yeah, and what I tell students sometimes, because I would do this when I was teaching the drum lab class, the drum proficiency class at USC, I would tell them, like, we worked on stick control every day that I saw them. We would do like 4 of them, and it would just be like just bass drum, nice and slow,
right?
And just the left foot, and then alternate the feet. And then I would always say, all right, for schlitz and giggles,
yes,
just bump 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 bump, and people were like, oh, freak out, and I'm like, wait, but you can approach this the technical way and be like, this foot and this hand, and every time or you could just like, because essentially what you're building here is the separation. The first 2 levels of coordination is your upper body, your hands, versus your lower body, your feet.
Right.
In some sense, I'm not saying you don't want to think about it that technically, but in some sense you can just, like, it's just like walking your feet. Like, I don't think about when I'm walking,
yes,
like, on my right foot, then my left foot, then my right foot, then my left foot. Like, you start to get into this like natural pace that you can hopefully not necessarily like completely ignore, but you're still like in tune with what's going on, but you're not like really like nitpicking, like, well, that step was too, like, just kind of getting into, like, eventually you'll have that muscle memory, and you won't have to think about it as much. So it's like, don't put the stress on it like immediately.
So here's a cool way to think about it too, is like you said, if you're just feeling it and you make a little mistake, it's very easy to like not worry about it. But if I'm playing something and I'm being really careful about each note being perfect, that is actually proof that I don't have those limbs separated. Mm-hmm. Because I'm not playing it in such a smooth way, because the limb is totally separate, that it allows for these kind of loosey-goosey mistakes. Like just now, because like you said, it's like you're walking. Like, because it just feels like I'm walking, I'm happily ignoring what my feet are doing. I'm hearing the combinations of sounds that are emerging from it based on what the hands are doing, and I'm enjoying the way it sounds, but I'm not like telling my legs, oh, be careful because that 8th note's got to hit on the right hand. No, yeah. You're just walking. That's limb separation from top to bottom. That's like, get your feet to just live on their own and the hands start to develop and go.
Yeah, and in some sense, some people look at that like, oh, it's really like you're 4 people in one. It's like, well, I'm not necessarily trying to think about it like that or approach it like that. Like, what is each limb necessarily doing? If anything, I'll start like a step back. Like, it's just my upper body versus my lower body.
Right.
And then at some point, it becomes, this is just everything together.
Yeah.
This is just the one person.
Yeah.
This is just what all are doing together. Or at some point, like, I'm not even thinking what my feet are doing because my hands just know what to do. It's like when you see people who do, like, when you get to it later, the samba asana, it's like, and then they start soloing over that, and it's like, oh, it must be 2 separate people. It's like, well, no, you fellowshipped with it enough.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's all one thing now.
You've disconnected all the limbs.
Yeah.
Okay, so next is, we did that one.
Alternating feet, but now starting with.
Same thing, reversed. Okay.
Yeah.
I will do it again, if for no other reason than to push off the samba.
Yeah.
That was not easy. That took a lot of focus.
Yeah, it's a pain for sure. And I always, when I tell kids like this may be tricky, but like you're gonna do one of two things when you push yourself in this manner. Even if you don't master it, you're gonna awaken something here that's gonna just like it may work out.
Right.
Or when you go back, the normal thing, like the version 1, is going to feel so much more comfortable because then your brain isn't having to like work on overdrive just to get that. I would do that in the class. I would kind of quote unquote trick kids in some sense or students like play the groove, boom, bah, with your right hand. Okay, now try it with your left. Think about it. And some people would they would just like, oh, wait, this is weird.
They just fall out of their chair sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Or they like, whoa, this feels more comfortable. And then inadvertently is born open-handed drummer, potentially. But then even the ones that struggle and still try and they're like, hey, I just haven't gotten it yet. But when they go back, it's like, whew. Then their groove feels smoother because I have to work less now. So in some ways, like pushing yourself like this with even these kind of, I want to say simple ostinatos or concepts, but in some sense they are, but they also, after a while, they get kind of crazy. But
can we actually stay? This is not to avoid the samba. This is because I'd like to. Obviously, I'm leading with my weak foot, so there's already like a challenge there. And then what the hands are doing, that just gets to be its own kind of exciting thing. I want to take a second, and I want to not only push the tempo, but also move it around the drums, because I bet you I will trip over my own feet in a heartbeat if I move my hands around to the right tom to create the right combination of sounds, right?
Yeah, okay, and that's what I was going to say next, was like, after you feel comfortable or have like checked the box, like I did attempt all these, go back to the very beginning and then just separate one hand.
Perfect.
And then, so this is cool. Yeah, right. Definitely. Give it a go. Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
Let's do it again. Let's speed it up this time. Wow, wait a minute. Okay, if I wanted to do eighth notes starting with my strong foot, and just add the hands leading with the same manner. That's super easy to do. I could just jump into that. But just now when I tried to do it at that same speed, leading with my weak foot, I felt parts of my brain coming out of my ear. Like it didn't, it was almost like the brake was on. Does that make sense?
Yeah. There's a triplet pattern that I like to use that we use a lot in jazz.
Okay.
That people be like, oh yeah, Elvin Jones, Art Blakey,
right.
They all had this variation on just like the two hands and one foot.
Right.
And it's like, oh, I feel great playing that. But if I start with the foot,
yes,
I can't like.
Oh really? If you start with the foot. So.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess that's a little chunky.
Yeah, or changing the sticking a little bit, like instead of just alternating the two hands, the right, left foot, but you go right, left, right, left. I can do that, no problem. But it's when I go back to alternating, like even starting with the left, like I just can't get into it unless I start super slow. But my right, left, right doubles is cake. But I can't do it the other way. It's like I don't know why. It's the same idea, almost sonically the same thing, but
okay. Let's try again then. to just jump into it. No. All right, I'll leave that one slow. Damn. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
All right, so now the samba, right?
Okay, yeah, samba. So.
Oh no, we're out of time. Damn, sorry, man.
No, we're not.
We're gonna have to let you go here.
No, we are not out of time. Okay, so this one, usually you see the samba in like 6E note form, 1E, 2E, and 3E.
I see it like this too, yeah.
But then, I mean, it's the same rhythm.
Same thing.
It's just 8th note bass. It's proportionally the same thing. And then you're just playing, just grouping a bass on top of it.
Now, I don't know if I'm going to be able to smoothly go through all these, but that should ultimately be the goal.
Mm-hmm.
Break them up. Okay, so that one I could do that. So now the double strokes. Careful, my brain wants to toss me over to the left to my lead hand. And then the reverse paradiddle, or the reverse double stroke. All right, real quick. Adam, in the chat, give me like a thumbs up if you're still watching. I want to know if you've done this before. Because there's a dude named Adam who's been hanging out with us for a while here. And yeah, he even made a joke about, he wrote, haha, ostinatos, and then in quotes, starts to sweat. Yes, and it's like, yeah, you bet, dude. So, Adam, if you're still watching this exact one, this samba on the feet with then single strokes, double strokes, and then reversing them, is that something you've done before? I'd be curious to know. I've jammed with Adam, awesome drummer.
Oh, nice.
All right.
This one is tough because it exposes your relationship with the weaker partials.
Yeah.
Right? Because the usually we're like we want to like this one, we want to start on the stronger partial or the stronger beat or this, but this one forces you to resolve on the stronger beat, but you have to begin on the weaker of the beat, or the, I guess, less common. This one is one of those that, like, I kind of got to go back on what I said earlier. Like, this is one of those that, like, you do kind of need to start with understanding the technical aspect. Like, it does fall on that, but as soon as you understand the relationship, it then starts to gradually get easier. But it's a sneaky pattern, and even though these sticking combinations look easy, when you're forced to play again, since you're like the left hand lead, when you do the right hand lead, and then your left is ending on the weaker partial perturbation, starting on the weaker partial and resolving, it's just like, whoa, all these lines get crossed, and it's crazy. But to me, this is such an important ostinato, and because it comes from one of the most important grooves, Brazilian grooves, and coolest grooves. I personally have a love-hate relationship with the samba, because okay, funny story. I was playing a guy's graduate recital, and Professor Serfati was in the audience.
Oh, wow.
And we played a samba piece. And I remember he, like, took his phone out and wrote something, and I was like, I just happened to notice it. And then when I left, he goes, "You need to check your email." And in the middle of the recital, he had emailed me, "We need to talk about your samba." And I was like, darn it, like, oh no. So I love the samba, but I just didn't have, like, the authentic approach that he was talking about. And so by coming back and reanalyzing these combinations and my approach and in my solo and my group, like, it just changed the game for me. But it was one of those that, like, I hate to practice it also because I know I stink at it.
Right.
But when you hear, like, especially when he plays, like, Brazilian grooves, and especially samba, I'm like, oh, I wish that were me.
Right.
Like,
now, can I ask with a little bit finer amount of detail? Do you remember anything in particular about your samba that he found ungenuine?
Sure. I think when his biggest concern was, he was saying you kind of are doing the, like, Americanized samba. It's very stale. It's the groove that, like, if you typed it in and you had some guy on YouTube teaching you, it's very stale.
Okay.
So he's like, but the samba's got to have this certain flow and groove to it. You weren't so focused on that necessarily. So we need to take a step back, and we need to look at authentic Brazilian, even melodies on the rim knock, because everybody knows the, or that's bossa, but the and he goes, yeah, that's great, but, like, what about?
Okay.
Like, do you understand those? And then he also was like, name me 3 Brazilian drummers. And I was like, and he goes, aha. Exactly. You listen to the more Americanized, like, you might hear a big band play, or you guys play, you might hear somebody play a samba off some big band record, but, like, are you listening to the true, authentic musicians to, like, envelop the feel of the actual groove? And so
I love that.
That was that's when I was like, dang, he got, like, I was ready to, like, what are you talking about? And then I was like, no, humble myself. He's as soon as he asked that question, name me 3 drummers.
Right.
And he was like, okay, not even just Brazilian drummers, just out of this, like, even drummers that are out of this country, that And I was like, you. And he goes, I don't count.
Right, exactly.
And he goes, name me 3 others, and I was like, I can't. 3 drum set players who stick true to that like authentic identity of the Brazilian rhythms, and they don't. And so I was just like, he got me, like, that you're 100% correct.
I love that, dude.
I don't know. So then he gave me a list of people, and then I was like, after that, I was like, oh, now I can hear, like, and I recorded that concert too, like, listening back to it, and then I'm listening to, like, those guys.
That's great that you recorded it.
He got me. Like,
right? Because then you really can go back and listen to it and go, oh, I hear what he's talking about. Real quick, did we talk about the drummer's toolbox last time we talked?
Oh, we haven't. Yeah. We mentioned it.
So I just want to real quick, just for the sake of argument here, I want to find the samba. And I want to go to that page. Oh, I missed it. I see the salsa. Where's the samba? Uh-oh. I see them using the word Latin a lot here. That's a bad sign.
Yeah. Oh, that is like a, I mean, that is like a murder. Like that, he was like, don't ever say Latin in front of me. Be specific, because people will just be like, "Oh, this has got a Latin feel." Well, what? You know, bachata, samba, songo, mambo, cha-cha. Like, which is it? Don't just cop out and say Latin. Quasi-Latin, and he hates that one too. I never say Latin.
It's like semi-Latin. It's like quasi-Latin.
Yeah, Latin fusion, quasi-calypso. Like he hates that kind of stuff, but I understand why.
Sure, of course. Or at the very least, you maybe you don't even mean it. You mean it inspired you in a way, but it didn't take on its original form. You did something new with it. It's samba-esque. It's quasi-samba. Like that is okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so it doesn't say samba anywhere in the book, but it does say samba reggae, which I think is interesting. But then the reason why I brought it up is because in this book they have these different, grooves, these different styles, these different drum patterns, and then lists of bands. So that kind of falls in line with the thing that you were talking about is. Yeah. Just because you know the beat, just because you can memorize the right notes in the right group, doesn't mean you've heard it in its like really genuine form. So and I, by the way, completely ignore that when I'm going through this book. So maybe I won't anymore. If he says, here's your samba reggae, go and listen to, he's got a band called Olodum. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. It's like a bunch of songs by that band. Yeah, go and listen to it and listen to whatever drummer's on there and let him show you what he feels when he's doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's because the notes on the page are just what was transcribed.
Exactly.
But how it was felt is a whole nother game. And so I think that's where he was getting at. It's like, yeah, you were technically precise, but you weren't it wasn't organic. You were just playing as if it was like, he could tell like you're thinking about it as 1 and 2 and 3 and 4,
sure,
and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and like you're just thinking about the subdivisions instead of actually like boom doom go go doom doom go boom. Like there wasn't the dance. You weren't feeling that, so we didn't feel that, and you didn't transfer that to your playing.
Right.
You were just thinking you were just subdividing and playing rhythms. You weren't playing music.
Right.
You weren't thinking about it that way. And so I was like, sheesh. I didn't like to hear that, but at the same time I was like,
you do like to hear it though. You do like to be put back on track.
Yeah.
All right.
So I totally understood.
So let's try again here. We've prolonged the samba long enough. So now I'm going to do I guess what I was doing before. It was the double strokes that got me, leading with the weak hand double strokes. Mm-hmm. What was I doing there? That was like way happening.
Yeah.
Locked in there.
Yeah.
Let me do it again from 0. That's not it. Oh! Daughter's calling me. I'll have to the voicemail on that one. Sorry, Lily.
No, you're good. You're good.
Confident enough about it. So what's the next one here?
Yeah, cool. And just if I may add one thing,
yeah.
If especially anybody who may be watching this and looking at some of these patterns and just going like, oh, hey, maybe I can handle that. Maybe this one, like as it picks up intensity, as it picks up in intensity and coordination. One piece of advice that both Peter and Will sort of offered to me in 2 different ways was, but essentially the same thing was, if you ever find yourself in those moments where you're still kind of like trying to put these 2 together or 3 things together, take away one of the limbs and just see if you can understand and become more comfortable with, because you'll eventually find which of the 3 limbs, or in your cycle, which of them is the one that isn't familiar,
right?
Or doesn't want to necessarily, like, your brain isn't quite getting the signal to. So clearing up that all the signals are being sent, you kind of like can kind of clear up the traffic here and just like, all right, I'm just going to focus. So for like specifically on that one, just being able to like take out and just do the bass drum, or
okay,
and then be able to like and then you'll see, like, at that point, you give your brain, especially if it's something new, you give your brain a chance to understand where specifically to send the signal. So that was something that both Will and Peter mentioned it when I did coordination stuff. Will was talking about, like, when you're grooving and you're just like, man, is my bass drum popping? Like, is it, like, in top of all the, like,
right.
Am I getting the right EQ with some of them have accents, some of them are not? Am I getting, does that feel good in and of itself before I'm thinking about the snare or and that was a really cool concept for me to like be able to take that away. And in some sense, it kind of creates this idea like, can you groove even though you're not playing the whole groove? And so I was like, oh, that just blew my mind too.
Yeah,
so,
no, that's a huge lesson to learn for sure. Take a limb out, cut something out, and see what happens. And sometimes it falls apart.
Yeah. So, anyway, so the last one. Here's the behemoth. I'm sorry. This is courtesy of Will Kennedy. Essentially, you're doing the 3 grouping: foot, left, right, right. It'll feel like slow triplets, but of course we're trying to still think of them in the same rate and count as the 8th notes on top, the same phrasing. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and even they're going 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and I only wrote out the first one and showed that it's a 3-bar pattern, like a 3-bar phrase. So if you do play any of the other ones, it's good to practice it in like that 3-bar phrase. So that way it'll properly resolve.
Okay.
So. Yeah.
Let me do it again. Leading with my weak hand. Okay. All right, and then so double strokes now.
This is the tricky one. Yeah.
No. How could that be it? Woo!
Yeah.
Because some of them line up.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if they line up, my brain is telling me, well, that can't be right. But yeah, some of them line up. Start there. No. Never done these, man. Never done anything like this. I should have stuck with lessons. And of course, as an adult now, hindsight is 2020. I couldn't wait to get out of lessons. I took lessons for a couple years between like 9 and 14. Really like age 9, 10, 11, I took lessons. Then we moved. I took a couple lessons, and then I was like, I'm done with this. I want to start a metal band.
Yeah.
I'm going to rock out, Madison Square Garden. Leave me alone with this. And then when I started teaching, I was like, this is when the learning part became actually fun. And now, come full circle, it's like, dude, I wish I could take a lesson a day. Like, just to have somebody really driving these ideas. Okay. Let's see, with our 9 minutes remaining. I can't even tell if it's right. That was close, though. got that first chunk.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know what, too? I got to hit a little harder. I'm cheating a bit that my limbs are just sort of falling where they need to fall.
Mm-hmm.
But when you go to do that on the rack toms or you want to hit that on the bell or something, you need to have your sticks in hand. Like I'm doing this, but it should be this. Have the double stroke variation written out there?
I don't. I wanted to just keep it on 2 pages, so I just wrote out that first one because I knew that first one alone was pretty hefty.
So that next one is easy. Those land on the same spots.
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to taste it a little bit. Can you play for me quick? I just want to hear
I
it.
can certainly try,
Right.
And I'll separate the right hand and left hand so you can hear that. I'm gonna start with the ostinato. Ah! There it is. Yeah. Well, and I don't even know honestly how I've only spent. I mean, the past year that's been like Will's like treatment of like a lot of like rudimental stuff we put on top. So it's like I'm just very comfortable with that because I've been doing it for like a year. But it's not an easy thing, and it really forced me because I think when I first tried it, I was just gonna go as fast as possible, so I didn't have to think about the alignment, which is like a problem that I tend to like run into. If I'm like starting this slowly and I'm adding anything, then it's like, then my brain's like, oh, I do really have to think about it. But if I just go, it's technically correct, but it's still kind of sloppy. Like every note wasn't 100% perfect together. But guess what? It sounded right. So when you do it this way, the way you're doing it, it means so much more when you have to.
I love it.
So.
All right, 3 more minutes here. Maybe I should try it on the. one next spot. Or maybe not at all. Isn't that the Neil Peart solo? Doesn't he do something like that where it's like, and he just does an entire solo over that?
Oh man, I can't imagine. That would be so crazy.
Neil Peart solo with the hands and like, you know, he's got like the octatoms and everything that Neil Peart does, but over top of that ostinato on the feet. Ridiculous.
Nuts.
All right. That's all I got. My goodness. All right. I do believe that's about as far as I can get with that for now. With good timing too.
Yeah. It's certainly a brain teaser, man. It's, again, you just take a look at this book that, like, at first glance, it's just like, I mean, it's quite literally, for me, was one of those, like, don't judge a book by its cover. Like, when I look at this, I'm like, why do I need to do this on the air drum? It's like, okay, don't. Then put something underneath it. Build this on top of it. I was like, oh. Yeah, once I saw that, I just saw how immense this book, and that's just that's the first 4 examples of the first page, which there are 20 more examples.
Right.
And it just goes on for the next, 3 pages total. 5, 6, and 7 are just single beat combinations. And you get into triplets to 8th notes, and it's just like, imagine doing all the same stuff with all that. It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's endless.
It's endless. It's hours and hours and hours of work. In the best way possible. Yeah. All right, man. So thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it. We will talk soon, and I'm going to jump into my next section here.